It was a cold evening when the traveler reached the edge of Hokkaido's northern coast. The road ended where the forest met the sea. Beyond the last turn stood a narrow path covered in half-melted snow. At the end of that path, there was a building, 2 stories high, made of dark timber, with broken lanterns hanging under the eaves. A small wooden board, written in fading paint, read, "Horai Onsen Hotel." No light came from inside. The windows were opaque from salt and frost. The traveler checked his phone. No signal. He took one step toward the building, and the air grew still, as if sound had been taken out of the world. He entered the lobby. Inside, the smell of old tatami and mold filled the space. Shoes were still arranged neatly near the entrance. A guest book lay open on the counter, its pages yellowed and curled. The last entry was dated 1979. The traveler pressed the bell on the desk. The sound did not echo. It was as if it was swallowed instantly. He called out once. No answer. At the far end of the lobby, a corridor led deeper into the hotel. Dim light came from the end of it, a flickering pale glow, like that of a candle trapped in fog. He began to walk. The floor creaked slightly under his shoes. The walls were lined with framed photographs. Guests in yukata robes, smiling near a hot spring. Staff members standing in a group. An old woman in a kimono beside a pond. Each photograph was blurred around the edges. Each one had the same faint white mist forming near the faces. The glow at the end of the corridor came from a paper lantern. It burned softly above a sign that read, "Dining room, guests only." He pushed the sliding door open. Inside, the long dining room still had tables set for dinner. Bowls, chopsticks, cups, all placed perfectly, covered in dust. In the corner, a radio sat on a counter. Its cord was cut. Yet as he entered, a faint static noise came from it, like air moving through wires. He stood still and listened. The sound stopped. He looked around the tables again. On one of them, a bowl was warm to the touch. Steam rose faintly from it. There was rice inside. The traveler left the dining room. He climbed the staircase at the back. On the second floor, the air was colder. The hallway stretched into darkness. Only one door was slightly open. He slid it aside. A traditional tatami room lay beyond. A futon was laid out neatly, as if waiting for a guest. On the wall hung a small scroll painting of Mount Fuji. The painting had water stains running down it, like tears that had dried. He placed his backpack on the floor and sat down. He did not speak. He listened. No wind, no water, only the distant ticking of something mechanical. He looked for the source. In the corner stood a small wall clock. The hands were moving backward. He picked it up and stared at it. The sound stopped. The second hand froze between marks. He put it down again. The clock started ticking forward. He turned off his flashlight. Darkness filled the room. After a few minutes, he began to see faint movement outside the shoji screen. Shadows passing by, slow and deliberate, as if someone was walking in the hallway carrying a lantern. He waited for the sound of footsteps. There were none. When he slid the door open again, the corridor was empty, but the air smelled faintly of incense. He walked toward the end of the corridor. The last door had a sign on it, "Bathhouse." He entered. The onsen was quiet. The surface of the water reflected the ceiling lamps that were no longer lit. A thin layer of mist covered the floor. He touched the water. It was warm. The traveler looked around. There were wet footprints leading from the pool to the exit. Bare feet, small ones. He followed them. They led him to another hallway, narrower, colder, with wooden walls warped from humidity. It ended at a sliding door with no handle. When he touched it, it opened on its own. Inside was a small lounge with a low table. 2 teacups sat on it. The steam from one cup was still rising. He heard the faint click of a camera shutter. He turned around. No one was there. He walked slowly back toward the lobby, but the corridor was no longer the same. It bent where it shouldn't. The photographs on the walls had changed. Now, one of them showed him, standing at the reception counter, his back turned to the camera. He stopped walking. The radio in the dining room started again. The static grew louder. Then, faintly, a voice came through. Traditional shamisen tone, old-fashioned tone. It said something like, "Dinner is served. All guests please return to your rooms." He froze. The sound repeated 3 times, then stopped. When he looked around again, the light had changed. The lamps were glowing now, weak yellow light, and faint music came from somewhere upstairs. Traditional shamisen music, broken and uneven, like an old recording looping over itself. He climbed back to the second floor. Every door was now open. Inside each room, futons were laid out. Some were occupied. He could see outlines beneath the blankets. No movement, just shapes. He didn't enter. He kept walking until he reached his own room. The scroll painting was gone. In its place, there was a photograph, black and white, of the same room, empty. He sat down again. The air felt heavy. His phone screen lit up by itself. The date showed January 14th, 1979. The clock on the wall ticked twice, then stopped completely. He turned to the door. Outside, the sound of footsteps began, slow, barefoot, coming closer. The sliding door moved slightly. A hand appeared on the edge. It was pale, wet, and small, the hand of a child. The traveler did not move. The hand withdrew. The footsteps faded away. Then silence. He stayed awake the whole night, watching the paper lantern outside the window flicker in the wind. Just before dawn, he finally stood up to leave. But when he opened the door, the corridor was gone. In its place was the lobby again, exactly as it was when he first arrived. Dust settled in the same places. The bell on the counter waited. He walked out of the building. When he reached the road, he looked back. The hotel seemed smaller now, half buried in fog. The signboard hung crooked. The words were unreadable. A bus passed behind him, heading south. He turned to wave it down, but when he looked again, the hotel was no longer there. Only an empty clearing, overgrown with moss. He stood there for a while. Then he began walking back the way he came, without speaking, without turning around. At the edge of the forest, a soft bell rang once. It sounded exactly like the one at the reception desk. 3 months passed. The traveler had returned to Tokyo. He did not speak about the hotel. He continued his routine, but every night he dreamed of the same corridor, the same paper lantern, the same ticking clock. One evening, while reading in a library, he found a newspaper archive. The headline was from 1979. 14 guests and 3 staff dead in Horai onsen landslide. The small article explained that the landslide had buried the hotel one winter night after continuous snow and rain. No bodies were recovered. Only fragments of walls, furniture, and a section of the bathhouse were found beneath the debris. The traveler read the list of names. He did not recognize any, but he remembered something: the small hand that had touched his door. Among the names was a girl, age 6. He took a train north again. The Hokkaido coast looked unchanged, frozen, empty, silent. The road he had walked before was half covered with weeds. He followed it, but there was no sign of the building. Just trees, just the sea wind. He stood where the clearing should have been. The ground was uneven, cracked, and covered with ash-gray moss. Then, from somewhere distant, a sound came, faint like glass tapping glass. He followed it. After a short walk, he saw a shape through the fog, the outline of the hotel. Same structure, same roofline, the same broken lanterns swaying under invisible wind. He approached without speaking. The entrance doors were open. Inside, the same smell of tatami and mold lingered. The shoes at the entrance were still arranged in pairs. The guest book still lay open. Now, the last page had a new line. Guest, Mr. K, returned. He looked at the handwriting. It was his own. He walked toward the dining hall again. The radio was silent this time. The tables were cleaner than before. On one of them, a single place was set. A folded napkin, a pair of chopsticks, a note under the plate. The note said, "Thank you for coming back." He did not move it. He just looked. Then he walked to the bathhouse again. The water was calm. Steam rose slowly. He saw his reflection, but behind it, in the water's surface, other reflections moved. Faint outlines of faces, pale and half dissolved. He looked away and noticed footprints again. This time there were many. Some leading into the bath, some leading out. He followed the ones that went toward the hallway. The corridor beyond had changed. The wallpaper was newer, the lamps were working. Voices echoed from ahead, indistinct, soft, conversational. He walked quietly toward the sound. At the end of the hallway, the sliding door to the banquet room stood open. Inside were people sitting at low tables, men, women, and children. They were dressed in yukata, their faces calm, movements slow and precise, as if following a forgotten rhythm. The traveler stood at the threshold. None of them looked at him. He could hear faint music, the same shamisen tune he remembered. Then, one of the guests lifted a cup, smiled faintly, and turned toward him. Her eyes were dark. Her skin had no color. She spoke softly. "Welcome back, sir. Dinner is ready." He turned to leave. The door behind him had closed. The woman stood up. The others remained seated. She walked closer. Her steps made no sound. She stopped a few feet away and handed him a small envelope. He took it. She bowed once, turned around, and sat down again. He opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph. It showed the dining room, the same one, with all the guests sitting exactly as they were now. Except that in the photograph, there was one more person sitting among them, him. He placed the photograph back into the envelope and walked backward toward the door. When he turned the handle, it opened easily this time. The hallway outside was empty again. He went upstairs. The second floor was silent. All the doors were closed. When he reached his old room, he found the scroll painting back in place, the one of Mount Fuji. Only now, in the corner of the painting, a new shape appeared, the small outline of a building beneath the mountain, half covered in snow. He sat on the tatami. The clock on the wall had returned. It was still ticking backward. He placed it face down on the floor. The ticking continued, muffled but steady. Then he heard the sound again, the bell at the reception desk. Once, twice. He stood up and walked back down. At the counter, the guest book was open to a new page. Names had begun to appear one by one, written in faint gray ink. The last line was incomplete. Only the letter K was written. Behind the counter, the telephone rang. He lifted the receiver. Static. Then a voice, the same one from the radio before, gentle and polite. "Front desk speaking. We have one more guest arriving. Please prepare their room." He did not answer. The voice repeated the same line. Then the phone went silent. He set it down and looked around. The air shimmered slightly, like heat over ice. Dust drifted in slow motion. The clock above the counter was melting downward, its numbers distorted. He walked outside again. The fog was heavier now. The hotel's shape was fading. But from somewhere deep inside, faint sounds continued. Sliding doors, water dripping, slow footsteps moving between rooms. The traveler walked back toward the road. He turned once to look. Through the fog, he saw the silhouettes of the guests standing in the doorway, watching him. Their outlines blurred into the air. Then the fog closed completely. He reached the main road. A van approached, an old delivery vehicle. The driver stopped and lowered the window. He asked if the traveler was lost. The traveler asked about the Horai onsen hotel. The driver looked confused. He said there had been a hotel once, many years ago, but it was destroyed in a landslide. He pointed to the forest. The traveler nodded. He asked when that had happened. The driver said, 1979. Then he added quietly, "Sometimes people say they still see lights there, but there's nothing left, just snow and trees." The traveler thanked him and walked away. He did not take the van. That night, he stayed at a small modern inn near the coast. The room was clean, silent, ordinary. He placed his bag near the wall and lay down. Around midnight, the hotel lights flickered once. Then the power went out. He opened the curtain. Outside, across the distant hill, a faint orange glow burned through the fog, the shape of lanterns. The outline of the Horai Onsen Hotel was visible again, perfectly clear. He watched it until dawn. When the light returned, the hill was empty. The glow was gone. But on the table near his bed lay a small envelope, the same kind as before. Inside was a photograph. It showed the modern inn room he was in. But outside the window, in the photograph, the old hotel was still burning. The traveler did not sleep that night. He placed the photograph carefully on the table. The hotel outside the window remained faintly visible in the image, its lights flickering, steam rising from the roof. He compared it to the hill beyond the inn. Nothing. No lights, no building. He left the envelope on the table and went outside. The early morning fog was dense. Footsteps sank silently into the snow. The coast remained empty. Waves broke slowly against the shore. The hill was bare, covered with white frost and moss. He walked back. The envelope had moved. It was now on the floor near the bed. The photograph inside showed the same room. The window was open. The hotel outside was closer. He put it back on the table. He left the room. The hallway was empty. The other rooms were all locked. Only the inn's front door led outside. When he opened it, the fog was thicker. He could barely see the road. He started walking. The shape of the hotel emerged from the mist. It was not distant. It was closer than before. The windows were dark. The roof was warped. Broken lanterns hung under the eaves. The signboard leaned, unreadable. He approached the entrance. The doors opened silently. Inside, the lobby was the same. Shoes at the entrance, the guest book on the counter, dust drifting slowly in the air. The bell on the desk remained still. He walked toward the corridor. The photographs on the walls had changed again. They showed guests standing in the hallway. In each photograph, the traveler appeared, once as a shadow, then fully visible, always at the threshold of rooms. He reached the dining hall. Bowls were arranged neatly. One still contained warm rice. The radio started softly, static, then a voice, polite and distant. "Dinner is served. All guests, please return to your rooms." The traveler did not respond. He walked toward the staircase. The second floor was unchanged. Every room was closed. The futons inside were laid out. The outlines of figures could be seen beneath them. He passed his old room. The scroll painting of Mount Fuji had returned. Beneath the mountain, a faint outline of the hotel appeared. It was smaller in the painting, but exact. He continued down the hallway. A door opened ahead. He had never seen this room. The sliding door moved on its own. Inside, the room was empty. Tatami mats, low table, a wall clock ticking backward. A single envelope lay on the table. He approached it. Inside was a photograph. It showed the traveler standing in the same room, holding the envelope, looking out the window. Behind him, the hotel lights flickered. The mist moved slowly through the walls. He turned.
The room was empty. Nothing moved. The clock ticked backward. The envelope remained on the table. He looked again at the photograph. The scene shifted. Now in the window of the image, a figure appeared, small, pale, hands resting on the glass, the same outline of the child from before. He walked back. The corridor stretched. The doors no longer aligned. walls bent at impossible angles. The lanterns flickered. He walked faster. The outlines beneath the futons were now visible in full, sitting upright, facing the hallway. The staircase led to the lobby. Outside the sliding doors, fog was dense. The lobby stretched farther than physically possible. The guest book was open. A new line had appeared. Guest, Mr. Tay, forever. The bell rang once. The radio started again. Front desk speaking, we have one more guest arriving. Please prepare their room. He did not respond. He did not move. A shadow crossed the floor. It was thin, small. It moved quickly, passing the traveler, leaving footprints that faded immediately. He stepped outside. The hill was gone. Only fog. The road was gone. The sea was gone. He walked forward. His feet sank into mist. The hotel appeared again, closer. Same as before. Windows dark. Lanterns broken. Roof warped. The doors opened. Inside, the corridor stretched endlessly. Photographs of the traveler were on every wall. The guests beneath the futons were upright. The radio played the same line. He stopped. The envelope was on a low table. He picked it up. Inside was the same photograph. He looked at the window. Outside, the hotel lights flickered in the mist. He placed the photograph down. The bell rang. The footsteps returned. Slow, barefoot, approaching. The sliding door opened. The pale child's hand appeared on the edge. He did not move. The door closed. The mist thickened. Shapes moved through it. Figures of men, women, and children appeared in the corridors, walking in place, standing still, observing the traveler. He walked toward the dining hall, bowls and cups arranged neatly, steam rising. The radio started.
Dinner is served. All guests, please return to your rooms. He sat down at the low table. A cup appeared before him, steam rising. Tea poured itself slowly. He picked up the cup. It was warm. He looked outside the window. Through the fog, the hotel stretched infinitely. Lanterns flickered. Shadows moved inside. Figures appeared and disappeared. He placed the cup down. The clock ticked backward. The envelope moved. The photograph showed him sitting at the table, holding the cup. He stood. He walked to the window. The fog was thick. The hill was gone. Trees and snow drifted in slow motion. Lanterns flickered in the distance. He stepped back. The corridor behind him extended endlessly. Doors opened and closed on their own. Footsteps echoed faintly. He turned. The photograph on the table had changed. It now showed the traveler leaving the hotel, walking toward the main road. Fog thick. Hill empty. Lanterns faint. He walked back into the corridor. The doors opened. The figures moved. The radio repeated the same line. He walked. The corridor stretched. Steps behind him. Steps ahead. The envelope on the table moved again. He walked to the dining hall. The cup appeared. Steam rising. The radio played. The bell rang. The corridor bent. The photographs of the traveler multiplied. Futons with upright figures. Shadows across the floor. He stopped. The small, pale hand appeared again. The corridor shifted. The clock ticked backward. He turned. The envelope moved. He placed the cup down. He sat. The radio repeated. The photograph showed him. Always him. The bell rang. He did not move. The hotel stretched infinitely. Lanterns flickered. Shadows moved. Figures observed. Footsteps echoed. Steam rose. The clock ticked backward. The envelope shifted. He remained. Outside, the fog was thick. The hill empty. Lanterns faint. Inside, the hotel continued. Always. The guest book remained open. Names appeared. Guest, Mr. K, forever.